guys, welcome back again. So today I'm going to try and make a tea biscuit. So a lot of people, especially from the Maritimes, know what this is. It's just a very simple biscuit. A lot of people may even, it's similar to a scone actually, but in the Maritimes we eat them with breakfast. We can turn them into dessert with strawberries on top. You cut it in half, you put strawberries on it and whipped cream, but I would say it's a staple for most Maritimers. We enjoy it often with just baked beans, sometimes just peanut butter and jam and a glass of milk. I like it with molasses and a hot cup of tea. So let me show you how it's done. We're going to start by 3 cups of flour, and as I always say, put the flour in the cup. Don't dip your cup into the flour. This way you'll make sure that you're getting 3 cups and not more from by compacting it in. So 1. This here recipe comes together real quick. The other thing that I should tell you while I'm doing this is that I have my oven already set to 450 and I have my cast iron frying pan in the oven. I don't add any butter or anything to the frying pan because my cast iron pan is well seasoned. So that's 2, and this is our 3rd one. These are by no means fancy, but boy are they ever delicious. So 3. And to this 3 cups of flour, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of sugar. 1, 2, 3. We're going to use a half a teaspoon of salt. If you're using salted butter, I would just do the half a teaspoon. If you're using another fat like a lard or shortening or whatever, I don't know if you'd really use shortening though for tea biscuits, to be honest. Anyway, if you're using another fat, use the full teaspoon, okay? If you want to make these dairy-free, it's real easy to do that. So you would substitute the butter that we're going to add, a half a cup of butter, for a half a cup of lard. And for the cup of milk that we're going to add, you would substitute an oat milk or some other milk that you would drink normally on a lactose intolerant diet. Okay, so we added our sugar, and to this we're going to add 4.5 teaspoons of baking powder. I level the top, sort of crimp the top of this so it can level the baking powder as I pull it out. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4.5, roughly. And to this, I'm going to add 3/4 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar. This here really gives it that little extra height in terms of when it hits the heat, okay? So we have the salt, we have a half a teaspoon of salt, 3/4 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar, 3 tablespoons of sugar. Okay, so to this, we are going to grate in a half a cup of butter. And I like to use butter that's very cold or even frozen because it grates in real nice. You don't have to grate it in if you prefer to use a pastry blender or even a food processor for that matter. I suppose you could even do this recipe in a food processor. Never done it, but I can't see why not. So using cold butter makes it a whole lot easier. Even if you use a food processor, it makes it so much easier to use any pastry that uses butter, using it when it's cold or frozen. Okay. Now, this grater I'm very leery of because it is super, super sharp. It's one of my big kitchen investments. I got it at Lee Valley and I absolutely love it, but you can't be careless with it one bit. It'll quickly show you who's boss. So I'm going to scrape all of the butter out of that, and I'm going to use a fork now to stir this butter in. And what you want to do with this now is you want to get flour in between every single piece of this ice cold butter, okay? And just use a fork to sort of whisk it all around and get that. And what that'll do is that each little piece of butter, as it hits the high heat, like I said, the oven is at 450, as it hits the high heat, butter has a little bit of water in it, right? And so each piece of butter, as soon as that heat hits it, the water will sort of dissipate, and it'll cause it to rise up and give you a little more height as well. So, done, 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 super easy. We have a cup of milk here, and to this cup of milk, we're just going to add in 1 egg. Perfect. And now we're going to whisk that egg in real well. My favorite whisk right here, this tiny little powerful thing. And I'm going to move a few things aside here. Okay, so we're going to add this. We made a little well in the middle of the biscuit, the flour, and we're going to just dump that all in there. Okay, real easy. This recipe truly can come together in 10 minutes or less. It really is that easy. Only put your pan into preheat, by the way, if you're using cast iron. If you're going to be using a regular cookie sheet or something like that, do not preheat your pan, okay? So, this here comes together really nicely. Just stir it around a bit. Do not overwork biscuit dough. That is the biggest mistake you can make with biscuit dough. It really should come together super fast. I'm going to just sprinkle a little bit of flour in here to clean this bowl out, just to make it easier to clean. So, it really should come together real fast, and with very little handling. So for example, I would suspect that I don't have to turn this any more than 12 times at the most to knead it, I should say. So here we go. Just a little bit of flour on top, and now we're going to just start kneading. We're just pulling it all together. You will have to add additional flour as you need, but this keeps you from adding too much flour. Don't add too much flour to this. Don't think that you'll add a bunch at once and it'll work. Please don't do that, because what it'll do is it'll make a tough biscuit for you, okay? So, just a few more times around, and we're going to roll it out. You can use a rolling pin. I'm just going to use my knuckles to sort of tampen it down, which is how my grandmother used to make hers. And maybe I'm just too lazy to pull the rolling pin out, but that works just fine. There. So, not going to overwork this at all. Got enough flour on the bottom there, I think. I'm just going to sprinkle a tiny bit more just to be sure. Turn it into a bit of an oval, and this is all I do. Super easy peasy. I have a 2-inch cookie cutter here that I use for these. I know when I was a kid, my mother and my grandmother they used to have baby food that came in cans at the time, tiny little cans, and they would actually use those for their tea biscuits. So, same thing, you could use even a tomato paste can. And it'll give you very sweet, tiny little biscuits, but it's an option if you don't have a cutter. And just cut them out real simple. Don't be fancy. Don't play with them too much. Biscuits aren't meant to be fancy. I've actually used this recipe, and I've actually used fried up some pork sausages and added that into them. I have cut back on the butter to 1/4 cup and added 1/4 cup of cheese. You could even add more than 1/4 cup of cheese if you like. So there are all kinds of options and different things that you could do with these. You could add raisins, all sorts of variations. Okay, now this is just going to be a little piece. And I'll put this in the middle because it's so small. I don't want it to put it on the end because it'll cook faster. So I'll stick that in one of the middle spots. Okay, I think that's really quite simple. If you find that they're a little lopsided when you cut them, or you cut on an angle and you didn't get the full circle, just do this with your hands to shape them up a bit more. Super easy. My grandmother taught me how to do that. You think you're cutting straight and it comes from, it's a little lopsided. So that's it, super easy. Now, I'm going to pull the cast iron frying pan out of the oven. And this is actually quite easy, just throw these in. You can actually start to hear the sizzle right away. There we are. This little baby one's going to go in the middle somewhere. So you can typically get about 10 tea biscuits out of these. When you put them in your pan, make sure that you put them up close to each other because they support each other to give you a nice high rise. Here I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Put them close together, and that way as they rise, they will sort of support each other. You could put, if you don't want them to be that close together, that's fine, you can pull them apart. I like them to be a little bit higher, so I tend to put them closer together. So we'll see you back. I'm going to set the timer for these for 12 minutes, and sometimes it's 14 minutes, but I'll check them at 12 minutes and we'll come back. Hi guys, welcome back. So my timer has just gone off. So I'm going to turn the timer off, and I think I'm going to just leave the oven in case they're not ready, but they're perfectly done. Look at this. This is exactly what you want. You definitely do not want them any browner than that, and they look just perfect. So this is what your end product should look like. They kind of look like they're glumped together a little bit, but they're good size, they're nice and high, and I can tell you they are so incredibly light and delicious. So I can bring you back later and show you when they cool down what it looks like. Okay, so see you soon. Thanks for joining me, everyone. I'm going to sit down now and enjoy these beautiful light biscuits with, as I told you, some molasses and a nice fresh cup of tea. So we'll see you next time, and as I said, if there's something that you want to see, just let us know in the comment section. If you want to subscribe to see some more, please hit subscribe and hit like as well. It's nice talking to you. God bless.